You were on Descendants, you were on Shades of Blue, you were even Maggie in the CW reboot of Charmed.
Living with OCD and how that is such a big part of my story and who I am. It's part of my life every single day. And
Obviously, OCD had no influence or interference in your acting life whatsoever, so we would... yes.
It's only that when it pays.
All right, maybe we'll talk about that then.
One of my biggest themes to date is, what if I forget how to act? What if I can't act anymore? And so I departed for Shades of Blue, the series I did in New York when I was 18, and it reached a peak at that time where to be so honest, I was like, I don't think I can go on anymore.
Wow.
It took up it was my whole world.
Whether you realize it or not, you probably know someone with obsessive compulsive disorder. Or maybe you love someone with OCD. And if those two don't fit, you might be the person with obsessive compulsive disorder. Because of this, OCD awareness is so personal for all of us. We hope that raising awareness will bring hope to everyone and their friends and their families who are affected by obsessive compulsive disorder. When we recognize what OCD really is, it offers us a couple of options. We can see the signs in ourselves and others much quicker. That can help to end a great deal of suffering. NOCD is the world's leading OCD treatment provider, and I'm honored to lead a team of licensed clinicians who are specially trained to accurately diagnose OCD and provide the treatment of choice, exposure and response prevention, so that we know that we can give people the lives that they want to live and help them not live the lives that OCD wants them to live. In addition to that, for OCD, it means applying the work that we do to other conditions that often come along with obsessive compulsive disorder, such as body-focused repetitive behaviors, tics, hoarding, anxiety disorders, mood conditions, trauma, and even body dysmorphic disorder. If any of these are things that are affecting you or your loved ones or family, know that help is available. If you're looking for help, you can check us out at NOCD.com. That's NOCD.com. Our goal is simple: to make sure that nothing, not OCD, not stigma, not misconceptions, gets in the way of you living the life you want. You deserve to focus on things that bring you joy and meaning. Helping you is just personal to us. It's what we do. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast. We're happy to have you here as always. Today we have with us Sarah Jeffery. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. You were on Descendants. You were on Shades of Blue. You were even Maggie in the CW reboot of Charmed. You have done lots of amazing things. I enjoyed watching one of your makeup Instagrams. I learned a lot about eyebrows, actually, which was thrilling. So thank you for that. I now know how to do. Yes, I can do my eyebrows very well. As you said, friends, not twins. I will always remember that.
Yeah, remember it. It's the words to live by.
Tell everyone a little bit about you and just why you're here today with us.
Well, as you said, I'm an actress, and that is my line of work and kind of what's brought me into like the public sphere. But I grew up in Vancouver. I'm actually in Vancouver right now. And I moved out to Los Angeles when I was about 20, I'd say. Okay. Prior to that, I moved to New York. I was like freshly 18. I moved there for Shades of Blue, actually. So kind of been bopping around from a young age, which has been fun, but definitely my mental health journey has been a huge part of that. And that's kind of what brings me here today is just wanting to talk more about specifically living with OCD and how that is such a big part of my story and who I am. It's part of my life every single day. And my family is so supportive. My mom and dad are so supportive. I have 3 sisters and a brother, and just really wonderful family who have been, it can be such a hard disorder for people to understand fully. And they've really put in the work to to understand as best they can.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get into more.
Amazing. And so like you said, so nice to have that family support, because sometimes families bring in some of their feelings about, oh, a child with a mental health problem, what did I do wrong? I feel so shamed or guilty about that.
Totally.
And that can really happen, right? And I've had
Yeah.
so many conversations with parents where I'm like, stop blaming yourself, let's focus on helping this, not blaming for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No one is really to blame. I mean, I'm sure it's funny. One other thing I'd like to add about myself is
Sure.
I literally just I just enrolled in an online university for my psych degree. And
Woohoo!
so
All right.
I'm a major in psychology and a minor in French, actually.
Mm,
And I am just learning a lot about more about on a deeper level, um, where things can not go wrong, but the whole nature versus nurture
yeah.
debate. And yeah, it is interesting. It's easy to try to point blame and to try to figure out where something may have happened and what the cause is, but really it just comes down to treating it
Yeah.
and trying to just live a good healthy life as best you can. And my
Right.
parents have done a really really wonderful job of that.
Fantastic. So you start acting and singing around age 3, and does OCD show up around then too, or is that something you more gradually notice? How does that all come about?
Yeah, yeah, I started dancing like you said when I was 3 years old. And dance was my first love. I was a competitive dancer all my life.
Hmm.
And I actually
Jazz,
didn't.
hip hop. Where'd you
All
go
of
with that?
that,
All
all
of
of
that.
that.
Okay. All
Jazz,
right.
hip hop,
All right.
lyrical, contemporary, modern, song and dance, tap,
Hmm.
um, kind of, yeah, all of it. And acting didn't necessarily come into my life until a little bit later,
Okay.
um, but OCD first showed up certainly when I was younger. I think 5th grade is when it sort of emerged as a real issue
Mm,
that
mm,
needed to be addressed. Prior to that, it I was certainly an anxious child. I was really preoccupied with the safety of my parents. From
okay.
what I've heard, that is pretty common for youth. I would, stand at the window of the dance studio, and if my mom was just a couple minutes late, it was like
Mm,
sheer panic of where is she? Did she get into a car accident?
yes.
So that's kind of where it first started showing up is uh, really really ruminating about the safety of my parents. And um, it really kind of hindering my quality of life. And which graduated into a very deep obsession about weather. In the 5th grade, it presented itself as a fear of wind. I missed a lot of my 5th grade year in school, um, because I would look outside and I would see a branch moving just on such a small, tiny level, like uh, virtually imperceptible to anyone else. And I would refuse to go to school because I would be convinced it was the world ending or a natural disaster coming, or I wouldn't be safe if I left the house. I would shut the windows and the blinds. And so we didn't know at that time that it was OCD, but of course, looking back, I can perfectly sort of identify um, the obsessions and the compulsions that followed.
I hear that from so many people, that a
So
young
interesting.
weather fear when you're a child
Isn't that
is
interesting?
so paramount in their development of fear. Tornadoes and lightning
Wow.
strikes, they're different
Yes.
things. So you are not the first person who's ever said that to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even though it's not my fear now, that's very validating because
Hmm.
yeah, it was massively disruptive to my life.
Yeah. Now that you're in school too, why don't let's armchair psychologist for a moment. But yeah, there we go. There we go. Yes, we have to pose. You must pose for that as you do it. But weather might be one of the only really unpredictable things when you're a child, right? Because so
Oh,
much
for
of your
sure.
life is kind of regimented and set. You go to school, we take this car, mom's here, dad. But weather, just comes out of
And
nowhere. And
on its own
yeah,
sort of
I never
schedule.
thought
And
of it like that till right now. This is
yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, that's a good point. It's truly, it's one of those things that is absolutely out of your control. And um I mean, virtually unpredictable. I mean, I know we have uh what is the media, not weather.
Meteorologists who like to
Yeah,
tell us things, but are
it's
like
but are
50%.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it's, it's
yeah,
not, it's
yeah,
certainly not
yeah,
a foolproof
yeah.
method. Um, but yeah, it really shook me to my core. And um, I actually went on a this is interesting because it's kind of like an inciting incident.
Yeah.
Is what sparked that was I went on I had family that lived on Vancouver Island, and you would take a ferry from the mainland to the island. And one holiday season, we were taking a ferry back from the island to our home on the mainland, and there was a massive storm.
Oh,
And we were the last boat that they let travel from the island to the mainland before they stopped ferrying passengers over. And it was just terrifying. I remember so vividly. It just The ship was just felt like it was going to topple over. Glass, like the windows were breaking. There were fires on board. There was flooding.
oh my
People were
gosh.
sick. It was terrifying. And I'm like, how did no one else develop an insane fear of
Yeah.
weather?
Ferry
Because
boats and
I
weather.
I was
And
I
everything.
was
Yeah.
I was completely, we refer to it as sort of Pandora's box.
Right.
Um,
Wow. That
it
sounds terrible. Hmm.
terrifying,
Yeah.
terrifying for anyone. But I guess, whatever whatever was going on cognitively in my head, and it was just enough to like trigger something that perhaps was already going to be triggered in some way or another.
Yeah, you talked about that nature nurture. We say this diathesis stress model, meaning we have genetic predispositions, but we need the right
Mm,
environmental stressors at the right time in order to kick them off. And that might have been
yes,
the confluence of those two things right there, that you had that genetic predisposition and bam, that stressor was enough to be like, okay,
kicked into
weather
overdrive.
is dangerous and there's danger
Yeah,
out there in the world or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting looking back. Like
Yeah.
it really was a switch in my brain. And it went it felt like a switch in my brain, going from, you know sort of a neurotypical way of thinking to my brain feels like it's not mine, it's out of control. It's this preoccupation with the uncertainty and things that are out of my control is just so vast.
Yeah.
um yeah, so that was childhood, super fun.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like I should charge you for this call here. So
Right, getting to unload and talk. Thank you for
yeah,
therapizing.
yeah, no, but it's so important for people to hear these things because we don't always talk about some of those potential type of events that might be the kickoff thing. And it doesn't mean that you have like a trauma or PTSD or something like that, but
Totally.
it does mean there was a big stressor, and that's what we need a lot of times to
Yeah,
kick something off, is that you
yeah.
experience the stressor and you potentially learned something from that life is more unpredictable than you thought. And boy, doesn't OCD love to jump in and say, well, I can give you predictable. If you just do
No,
these compulsions, you never have to worry
no
about that again.
kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
It is
There you go.
just the ultimate liar.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I mean, you have been
yeah,
lied to by your own brain so many times. It's amazing, right?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible every day, even now, being, what I like to call in recovery. It's still, I it's an day to day adventure,
Hmm.
really. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So you're this amazing dancer. Acting comes a little bit later. How do you get into acting? How does that all start? Do you just start going to some auditions and try things, or somebody see you and think she's a Princess Aubrey right there if I ever saw one?
So funny. You know, it it kind of was. I like to say that acting kind of found me versus like I
Oh,
found
okay.
acting,
Yeah.
because it wasn't really on my radar. I mean, I loved performing. I certainly that is a huge part of who I am.
Hmm.
Um, but my dad has long worked in the film industry. He still does. He's a stand-in, but
Oh, cool.
back in his
Hmm.
heyday, he would act and do voice acting, and so he was always involved in the arts. My mom's also artistic. My whole family is very um, artistically inclined, and my older sister, who's only a year and 9 days older than me, so we're very close in age, she wanted to start acting, and they sought out an agent for her, and I was like, well, I want to do what she's doing because she's my older, cooler
Yeah.
sister, and
Right. Hmm.
I sort of tagged along, and we had an agent take us both on, and it wasn't until a little bit later, around 15, that I started considering what I wanted my life to look like,
Sure.
and what I wanted to do as a career. And I always wanted to be in um, some sort of active service. At first, I wanted to be a dentist, and
Hmm.
then I wanted to be a nurse.
Hmm.
And I landed kind of on, I think I really want to go to nursing school. I really want to deal with pediatric nursing, and that was kind of my goal. And um, I did not come from money at all, and I knew that I would have to sort of finance my own way through
Yeah.
medical school, and acting kind of became this, well, hey, maybe if I could book a commercial here or there, or a small spot here or there,
Sure. Sure.
I could earn enough money to put myself through school, and that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after taking that approach that I booked my first series regular when I was turning 16 years old. I was still in high school, and it really kind of took off from there. And I've been very lucky that um, it's been steady, and I kind of was like, oh, what? Why didn't I think of doing this before? Like, this is everything.
Yeah.
This is perfect. I love this.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and ever since then, it's been my kind of my calling.
And how awesome now with online capabilities that you can still pursue that service dream with school and do the thing you love at the same time.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
This
Yeah.
is a very, yeah, I've always wanted to go to post-secondary school, and I kind of counted it out because acting is such an unpredictable schedule, and you never know when the next job is going to come and where it's going to take you. And yeah, being able to have it be portable, I can do it wherever I want, and to even be able to pause it when I need to.
Sure.
It's great. And I've struggled with placing my value on my career. That's been a common topic of conversation with my own therapist. Is, if I'm not working, who am I? And school has kind of allowed me to take matters into my own hands, um, and start to explore other things that also matter to me and excite me, and um, that I want to, yeah, explore.
That's amazing.
Thank
Now,
you.
obviously, OCD had no influence or interference in your acting life whatsoever. So we wouldn't. Yes,
If
yes.
only that were the
Oh,
case.
all right. Maybe we'll talk about that then. So,
Yeah,
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 you have this thing you love, you have this thing you're passionate about, and then you have this thing in your brain that says, how can I screw that up in
yeah,
some ways? So, what was
yeah.
that like to balance this oncoming OCD as you're getting older? And of course, we know this, the two peak times for OCD are transitions. So that transition from grade school to high school, maybe
Oof,
now
yeah.
it could be for some people from high school to college. It could be your first job. So you go to this series, not a stressor at all, by the way, for you, I'm sure.
No,
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 no. And,
no.
and
Never.
sadly, wherever you go, your brain goes with you, which means OCD goes with you. So how
That's
did you
right.
manage that? And what was that experience like for you?
Gosh, there is so much to unpack, but I guess to start with, I a formal diagnosis was, of course, very important.
Yeah.
I really, so back to what you were saying about transitions being a trigger.
Yeah.
When I went to high school, I kind of had this break between the weather phenomenon related OCD to kind of it kind of ebbed,
Okay.
and I had a little bit of reprieve, and then went to high school, and it started to take on more of a quote unquote pure O um,
Sure.
vibe, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
it started to show up in sexual orientation OCD and relationship OCD.
Sure.
And it got to a point where I was like, there is absolutely something wrong with me. I cannot keep going. Like, I can't keep going on this way. And I'm looking back, I don't understand how I survived from, eighth grade to getting that formal diagnosis, largely to the support of my family, although they didn't know what was happening. So I was constantly getting reassurance, um, asking my mom, do you think I love my partner enough? My high school boyfriend, like, just so preoccupied with, um, and I think, to be clear to listeners, it's important to like delineate that it wasn't like I talk about sexual orientation. It wasn't that I was concerned about being gay or not. It was the concern of, oh, I don't know if I know who I am. Like, I
Yes.
need to know for
Yes.
sure who I am.
Right.
It's not so much the subject matter, it's the uncertainty of it all.
And that's it. So many people sometimes hear that and they think, oh, you don't like these other orientations. No, it has zero
No,
to do with that
no,
whatsoever. Absolutely
no,
zero to do with it. It is that
exactly.
ultimate questioning of how do I truly know who or what I am, what I stand for, what I
Yes.
believe in, how I identify, what my orientation is, what's my
Mhm.
values, what's my faith, what's
Yeah,
wherever you could have a doubt about something about you, that's what OCD is going to attack. So we just want to
exactly.
make that very clear in this discussion that that's what
For
we're
sure.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and, I've done lots of with my own therapist, but also my own research, just like OCD is ego dystonic, so
Yes.
it attacks things that, you know, that you don't believe in, and, or that are antithetical to your own
Hmm.
belief system,
Hmm.
um, or just antithetical to who you thought that you were, or, yeah, yeah, so for me, it began showing up as, what if everything I thought about myself is wrong?
Yeah.
Um, and you focus so much on one thing, it really starts to take over your life and your brain, and so I existed that way for a long while, because, it was also hard to talk about. I had my mom, and bless her, she is and was so supportive, and did the best she could, but she didn't know that giving me reassurance was a big
Yeah.
no-no.
She
Like,
had no idea. No,
she
she
had no
didn't.
idea,
Mm.
we had no idea, and I began to do my own research online about, like, what could this be? Obsessing about relationship 24/7. What if I don't love him? What if he doesn't love me? And I came across some articles about OCD, because my preconception about it was what we see in the media, which is more cleanliness and
Yeah.
order, which is valid and real, but it's just not how it shows up for a lot of people.
Correct.
Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's what I have. It was a kind of eureka moment. And so I departed for Shades of Blue, the series I did in New York when I was 18, and it reached a peak at that time where
Mm-hmm.
to be so honest, was there. I was like, I don't think I can go on anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like, it took up so it was my whole world. I was going to work and filming, and all I could think about was my relationship and the rightness, quote unquote rightness of it, and if
Hmm.
it was the right relationship, was I making a mistake? Just telltale classic relationship OCD,
Totally. Yeah. Hmm.
textbook, and but I had no idea, and so I just I just wanted relief. I just wanted relief. So I got a formal diagnosis while I was in New York, and that was validating and amazing. And I also was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and major depression. And um yeah, it was interesting because at the same time that I had those answers, the first therapist I had, she she was valuable in that she was able to highlight some of what was different about me, but when I brought to her this this obsession, this preoccupation with my relationship, her response was, "Well, maybe that's showing up for a reason, you know? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that she had the adequate uh knowledge about relationship OCD or some of the more pure O themes to be able to help me dissect that properly."
Makes
And
sense.
so
Yeah.
she said that, and she was like, "Well, maybe it's worth looking at. Maybe it's showing up for a reason." And in the biggest compulsion of my life, broke up with my high school boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I don't know what would have happened had I had the proper, uh, the proper guidance. But that's how it played out, and um, the relief was so short term.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
The
it
12
it
seconds.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
12-second stops. It ended. It helped absolutely nothing, and
Right.
so eventually, after the series ended, I moved to Los Angeles, and I found my therapist at 20 years old that I'm still working with now. So it's been almost 10 years of working
Fantastic.
together. And
Good for you.
she, yeah, she has genuinely just altered the course of my life in a way that is so meaningful, and I'm beyond grateful for her. She has introduced me to acceptance and commitment therapy, exposure response prevention, cognitive behavioral therapy. We tackle all of it. And so, to your point, career wise, it was so important to me to have that support and to begin to understand my brain, because without it, I don't know if I would have been here. I don't know if I would have, I certainly don't think I would have been able to continue pursuing acting. Um, and yeah, it just was absolutely crucial and hard work, especially at the beginning, to dismantle and sort of try to untangle the ways that my brain was twisted, and to look at how it was working, and try to understand how it was working, and to restructure. And that's what we began with, was restructuring, you know then moving on to very gentle exposure and response prevention. And these things all allowed me to maintain a career, um, all the while, lots of suffering, so
Mhm.
much pain. Um, but I had her, and I had my family, and I had, you know, this emergence of the online community of people who speak about OCD, which was also crucial for me, looking to see that I wasn't alone. And of course, like you said, OCD attacks all of the things that matter to you. So naturally, my career was a prime target. And
Mhm.
one of my biggest themes to date is, what if I forget how to act? What if I can't act anymore? What
Mhm.
if I just can't remember the lines, before a big meeting, or a big callback, or we call them chemistry tests, where you meet with other potential
Oh, okay.
castmates,
Sure.
and
Mhm.
see if you have chemistry.
Mhm.
Just endless rumination about whether I will be able to perform. And I think, often I bring this to other actors, and I tell them about it, and they're like, "Oh, I get it. I know." But I think people forget that the diagnostic criteria is that there's like such a level of interference with your daily life. This isn't just like, this is out of 24 hours of the day. This sometimes takes up 12 hours of my day.
Yeah.
Um, so I have dismantled a lot of that. And bottom line, with anything, but with acting, is I just don't know how it's going to go. I just don't know. And learning to be okay with that is huge.
I always say that that's such a big part of the treatment is that I don't have an answer for you, but I can help you live with not knowing.
Bingo.
Right.
Bingo. Yeah. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting? Like your OCD, I'm going to make an assumption here. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Does
Mhm.
not probably say before you drive a car, let's think about all the people you might kill while you're driving. Right.
No,
Okay. But
never.
it will say, but what if you forget that one line? And that, just so we don't
Exactly.
care about all these other awful, horrible things that could happen anywhere in your world. But this one's unacceptable. This one
Yes.
thing would be the worst possible thing ever. You could kill
Yes.
25 people while driving. Okay. But to forget that one line, oh, boy, wouldn't
But
that be just awful?
that would
Yeah.
be horrible and
Yeah.
would end my life, and I
Hmm.
would never get a job again, and just all of the what ifs.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because, OCD takes on so many shapes and forms, and I have never personally related to, "Oh, what if I hit someone with my car?" and circling the block and
Yeah.
checking, and that's a huge one for so many people.
Yes.
Um, I've never had that. Now, to be fair, I have dealt with a lot of harm OCD, and that started showing up in, like, preteen, maybe 15 years old, which was also just that it harm themes are I feel so deeply for people who struggle with,
Yeah. Extra
harm
special
OCD.
fun on that one, right? Yeah. Hmm.
Extra special fun sauce,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
little bit of
Yeah.
sprinkles, a little bit of fun. It's,
Yeah. Hot sauce with sprinkles. Yeah. There you go.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, anything that dealt with the ways that my life could go wrong, or the ways that, um, I may not know myself, yeah, huge for me.
Well, it is the doubting disorder, right? So,
Certainly, certainly it is.
yeah. And I've tried to explain it sometimes the idea that the doubting disorder demands one thing, which is an absolute answer, but it will never accept an absolute answer because it will doubt every answer you give it, which means you can
Mm,
never fulfill it.
so accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
wondering what what was it like to go from trying to satisfy and fulfill OCD, failing every single time, to just being able to go, okay, yeah, whatever, and moving on and living your life?
I mean, what a shift. At first, it feels completely almost impossible. Like, how
Mm.
could I possibly not spend all my time trying to figure this out? It feels like I'm putting myself and others in danger by not satisfying these compulsions, whether they be mental or physical. Most of mine would show up mentally. Um, but yeah, it was so difficult. And my therapist would always tell me, like, you have to take the leap of faith. You don't know for sure, but taking that leap of faith and deciding not to abide by OCD's rules and regulations is the first step to recovery. And gradually, over like almost a decade of work with my therapist, I've gotten to a place where, I mean, I still struggle. Like, I will have a thought that comes in where I'm like, "Whoa, that's a new one," and it
Mhm.
really grabs me. But the themes that I've had for years, at this point, I'm like, "Okay, what else you got?" Like, I'm not entertaining that right now. Like, it's very tempting and seductive, but like, I know I if it what is the saying? Like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
It
it's
must be a
probably a
duck.
duck.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
know the tricks, um, but yeah, even so, it's an interesting disorder because it truly colors the way that I interact with the world. Um, yeah.
Sometimes people have described, and maybe this happened for you too, that they're almost afraid to really like something, knowing that, mm, we know what that might mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Hmm.
totally. Because then if you value something and like something, it's your OCD is probably at some point going to latch onto it. Um, I can't think of anything that means something to me in my life that my OCD hasn't latched onto. My family, my relationships, my personal identity, my pets, my career, friendships even. Um, health OCD is
Mm.
also huge for me. Especially with a history of, cancer in my family and just and things that are of course out of my control. Over the years have dealt with my fair share of health OCD, but yeah, yeah, all of that to say it's anything that matters to you
Sure.
is
Yeah.
is going to be tainted by OCD.
One can do never enough scans for OCD, can one? No.
No,
No.
no, you cannot. Oh my gosh, the time and money I've spent
Yeah.
going to the doctor is now I really have to like make sort of draw lines with myself of okay, if this thing, whatever it is, headache, muscle twitch persists for this amount of time, then we're going to go to get it checked out. We're not going to check ourselves into emergency, or we're
No.
going to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like setting guidelines for myself has been like and boundaries has been also huge.
And maybe this has happened to you, but anxiety based conditions make people do things that they would never suggest to anyone else in their life to do.
No, never. Like
Yeah.
I would never like ludicrous things. You have a cut on your finger? No, it's not sepsis. You don't have to go to emergency.
Yeah.
Like you had your heart did a triplet. You're fine, okay? You don't need to check yourself into the hospital immediately.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did early on with my harm OCD was um I would hide the kitchen knives because I had a huge fear of sleepwalking in the middle of the night and harming someone I loved. It was one of my biggest fears, and you know, I want to be clear that like I at the root of it all, I know who I am and I know that I would never, but that's exactly why it shows up is because like we discussed earlier it's ego dystonic. Anything that I value it attacks, and so I would just go to all these lengths to make sure that something didn't happen, where if a friend came to me with this fear, I'd be like, hey, that's okay, we all have weird thoughts,
Yeah.
it's cool, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But of course when it's yourself, it's a little more difficult.
I call it specialness. The rules of the world apply differently to me than they do to everybody else.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's very real.
And it's so convincing, isn't it? I mean, it just feels, if I hear one thing from anyone I do interviews with or that I'm working with or even on my webinars, is the phrase, but it feels so real.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it is so convincing.
Hmm.
It just and like I don't like what does that mean? What does it feel so real mean? I don't know, but all I can tell you is that it feels real. Like it feels like there is danger, danger, danger. The alarms are sounding in my brain.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. I have so much compassion for people who live with OCD.
Yeah. Well, that's obvious. I can see that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to say to folks, what couldn't you justify with the phrase, but it feels so real, right?
That is yeah. Yeah.
Any as long as you say, but it feels like it, then it's legit in your brain, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, even day before yesterday, I caught myself in a compulsion with my mom texting her saying, "But I feel like I'm never
No.
gonna book this job. I feel like I'm never gonna, book the next big thing." What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's not that's not a real measurement of reality.
Right. Because
But
when someone I'm working with will say that to me, I'll say, and it feels like the ceiling's about to collapse upon me,
mhm,
and of course it
totally.
still hasn't in 26 years of doing this, but boy, it feels like it.
Yeah, totally, totally. Could do.
It's always a possibility. OCD makes possibility equal probability.
Yes. Yes. That encapsulates it so well.
Hmm.
Yep. That's huge.
Now, 2019 comes and you share publicly that you have OCD. You did not have to do that. Thank you for doing that, but you did not
Yeah.
have to do that.
Yeah.
What? Why? What leads to that? What is it?
You know, I have always been a pretty open person. Not sure totally why. Maybe it has something to do with coming from a super supportive family and
Hmm.
just and having never having to really doubt that I'm valuable. Um, but I think the heart of it is that I wanted people to know that they weren't alone, and I also wanted to know that I wasn't alone. And I wanted to, I have a decent sized following, and I thought if I can share my story and have it affect one person and
Yeah.
have one person look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, okay, I am not alone," and this person who may seem like they have their life totally together is also going through something really difficult, then it's worth it to me. Um, and also just the online community, online OCD community has been such a valuable tool to me in my recovery.
Mm.
Um, whether it's just like reminders of different approaches and tools I can use, or hearing someone else's story and being reminded that I'm not alone. It's been huge. So just wanting to add to that conversation, and for perhaps people who haven't even been able to put a name to what they're going through. I've had loads of people reply to stories or posts of mine and say, "Thank you for talking about this. It's so validating." Especially someone I'm so lucky to even be able to say this, but like someone admire and look up to talk about it candidly is huge for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it continues to help break that stigma down too. We still sadly think it's okay to have a physical problem, but a mental health issue, you should be in control
Yeah.
of that. Why aren't you? And uh, boy, if you could control your brain, you would have by this point, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That ship has sailed. That is not a that's uh, not a possibility.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
So
Not
I'm
for
like, thanks,
anybody. Yeah,
thanks, tips. That's really helpful.
thanks, tips.
Just
Yeah.
why don't you just stop thinking about it?
Oh, you never heard
Okay,
that before. No one ever told you that. I'm sure. No,
no,
no, no, you never.
that
No, no,
before.
no, no.
Why don't you just stop thinking? Why don't
Yeah.
you just stop? Uh,
Oh, thanks.
okay,
I never thought about
I
not
never
thinking.
thought
Oh,
of
well,
that.
I'm gonna do that right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
See how that goes.
well, you are just
Wow. Should be a
wow. Thank you.
psychologist.
Yeah, yeah. You should do this professionally.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
There probably is the downside of a little bit because sometimes people come out and say they have OCD, and then lots of people say, "Oh, I have a little of that too." Right? Or how do you educate people when they have? I could see the fumes coming out of your ears right now. Oh.
No.
I'm just going to hand it over. Go talk. Yeah, I'm not even say anymore.
No. I while I get super heated about it because it's something I'm super passionate about,
Yeah.
I really try to approach people who are perhaps not educated about it with a soft hand,
Okay.
soft but firm,
Mm-hmm.
because as you know, and as so many of us with OCD know, people generally don't really understand the severity of the disorder, and so they think that you know liking to keep their room clean, um, or making sure the dishwasher is empty is like symptomatic of OCD, and they don't understand that for it to be OCD and for it to be, about cleaning your room, there has to be such a level of interference with your
Right.
regular life that demands a clinical diagnosis.
Mm.
So when people go around saying like, "Oh, I'm just so OCD about that," I'm like,
Mm.
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. I don't you can't first of all, that's incorrect use of the term. You don't go
Yeah.
around saying I'm so, you know, and I want to say that this is not me being flippant about any sort of physical ailment, but you wouldn't go around saying I'm so diabetic about that. I'm so diabetes with that.
Right. Right.
That's just not first of all, that doesn't make sense, and second of all, that's just not proper grammar.
Right.
Um
And we
you,
must use proper grammar, of course. Yes.
we must. You can say I suffer from diabetes. I have been diagnosed with diabetes. I am a person with diabetes, just the same that you would say I have OCD. I live with OCD. I suffer from OCD. Not I'm a little bit OCD about that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a little bit OCD about that. It's either full send or you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, from my vantage point, I'm sure that there are varying degrees of how it
No,
interferes with
I'm
someone's life,
yeah.
but
I'm with you though. It's we all have quirks, and people will call a quirk or maybe even a personality style OCD when it's really not. And we don't even use other mental health conditions that way, and everyone excuse the example. I'm just going to give a little warning on that. But, Sarah, if you said to me, you know, I'm 1 pound under my ideal weight. I have a little bit of anorexia. I mean, that
no,
sounds ridiculous, right? When
it
you
sounds
say
ridiculous.
something like that. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
also, to me, when I hear that, I'm like, well, you would never say that to someone
No,
because what if they are struggling with that on a
exactly.
real level? Like
Exactly.
that's not something to be taken lightly.
Right.
So the education is so important, which is also why I'm just so thrilled with everything that NOCD does and that you do because it's so important to break that stigma and you can't do that without education.
Yeah.
Um, and so I try to do my little bit of it. And even in my, my day-to-day life with friends and family, I've had to say like, hey, it hurts my feelings when you use it in a trivial manner because it's really not. It's actually life or death for a lot of people. Um, so yeah, just education is so important.
And that's great. And you have a platform to do that, which is wonderful. So thank you for that,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
I'm very blessed.
it
Yeah.
it raises all boats in this situation. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thanks.
And maybe someday there'll be a show you're on and they'll have an OCD kind of theme or character, and you'll really be able to be like, no, this is not what it's really like. Here's what it's
Exactly.
actually like. Yeah.
I would love to lend my hand in whatever way I can. Hopefully one day you know, these two things that I am knowledgeable about kind of mesh together and perhaps the opportunity will present itself to play a character with OCD or be a sort of an advocate and
Mhm.
an informant kind of um, because we want it to be, of course, portrayed in an accurate way.
Yes, absolutely. There's people out there, they follow you, they appreciate your work. You have an audience listening to this right now. And for those people who are thinking about on the fence about treatment and therapy and doing something, what's your inspirational message to those folks?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you're thinking about it, just please pursue it. Do it. It really, I truly believe it will only benefit you. No CD is obviously a great place to start. You want to make sure that you're going if it's OCD that you're suffering with. Um, and I know that anxiety has some overlap with OCD as well,
Mhm.
but you want to make sure that you're going to someone who is educated in um, ERP, exposure and response prevention, which is, of course, the gold standard for OCD treatment, and Acceptance and Commitment Therapy Act. Um, it's yeah, these are people that are really going to be able to help you understand how your brain works and that you're not broken.
Right.
You're just different, and you should have a helping hand along the way.
Yeah.
Um, it's become so much more accessible largely thanks to you guys, and um, even if you can't afford therapy, like following some online resources,
Hmm.
that that's huge. That's been so helpful in my recovery. Really educating yourself, and I just want to just emphasize that you are not broken. Your brain just works differently. It is not it's not it's not you. It's
Right.
just yeah, it's just the way that your brain works. It's a little like you said, it's a little special. It's a little
Special.
specialized.
Yeah.
A little extra hot sauce on there.
Yeah. And I like what you said about ACT. That whole goal of ACT is to live a values based life. And when you're doing
Yes,
what OCD wants, you're living the values of OCD. And when you
exactly.
start doing the things you want to do, you're living your values and your life. And that's
Exactly.
that's where we want to get people, is to be able to really do that. Yeah.
Exactly. Because the noise may always be there, but it's so huge to remember that you have agency and that you get to decide on your actions.
Yeah.
You don't have to play OCD's game. Yeah, values have been a huge part of my
Right.
recovery too.
You have learned, I'm assuming, that you can accept any thought or image or urge that pops into your head, and it doesn't require attention at all.
Certainly,
Hmm.
certainly. It can feel so tempting to get
Hmm.
pulled into that cycle, but you actually don't have to. It's the wildest thing once you kind of wrap your head around that. It's like, oh, I can have any thought, no matter how icky or disgusting or sticky it might feel. Um, I actually don't have to answer that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I actually am gonna go do what I was gonna do,
That's awesome.
because I can't tell you how many times OCD has stopped me in my tracks and uh, thwarted my plans for the day or
Sure.
the week or the month or the year.
Hmm.
Um, and it still happens from time to time.
Of
From
course.
time to time,
Sure.
I will get stuck and get one of those really sticky thoughts that really pulls me in. But for me, the difference has been the turnaround time too. Is just so much quicker than it used to be.
Yeah.
Instead of a week of obsessing about a certain thought, usually it can be a day that I try to get back onto my feet and really support myself and use the tools that I have. Um, but at the bottom of it all is just I do not have to entertain that anymore.
No.
I can drop that. I can just drop it like it's hot.
Sometimes I use an acting example, actually, or screenplay work. I could have two people in a room and give them something to think about, and one person begins to do compulsions because it's very triggering to them, and the other person says, "Ooh, interesting," and writes a screenplay horror film, turns it in, makes
Mm.
$1 million off of it. So the
Whew.
idea itself is just an idea. It's the reaction to it that we have to really work on.
I really like that happenstance. The analogy that you just used is that's very it's very interesting and useful and just highlights the way that someone's brain with OCD works.
Yeah.
Someone else, it's just like, huh, that was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe I could write an award-winning screenplay about that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting for me is sometimes I do draw inspiration from, intrusive images or thoughts and go, that is really interesting. One of the things about OCD is that we're very creative people. Like we are sincerely creative with the amount of scenarios we can come up with. Um, so I do think that lends itself to my creativity as an artist and as an actor.
Well, I'm very proud of you and the work you've done. Congratulations
Thank
on
you
your
so much.
success professionally, personally, psychologically.
Thank
May
you.
I say welcome to joining the field. If you need maybe
Yeah.
in 10 years from now, if you're ever looking for that internship or something, look me up again. Let's
I
let's
would
chat.
absolutely love that. I would love that.
If I'm not retired by then, we'll chat. That'd be great.
Your work
But
is so important, so thank you.
thank you. Yeah, I do love it, and to again, I have one goal. I say it all the time. I want you to live the life you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. That's
That's
my goal.
so profound.
Mm.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Sarah. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGrath. I appreciate you.
Where can people find you if they want to follow, look you up, all those things, get great eyebrow
Yeah.
tips, whatever
Yes,
whatever it might be.
we like to keep it interesting on my socials. We talk about compulsions and obsessions, but we also talk about eyebrows. So, keeping it fun and switching things up.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram. It's Sarah M. Jeffrey. My TikTok is Sarah Marie Jeffrey. And I think those are my main platforms. I'm Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, you can kind of keep up to date with my career and my uh, mental health advocacy on both of those platforms.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank all of you for watching another episode today of the Get to Know OCD podcast. Always great to have you here with us. If you're looking for help for OCD and related conditions, well, check us out at NOCD.com. We work with body focused repetitive behaviors like hair pulling and skin picking, hoarding, tics. We do work with anxiety disorders, mood conditions, trauma. We hope to be your one-stop shop for the things that you need help with the most. So go to NOCD.com. That's NOCD.com. And if you like the Get to Know OCD podcast, well, you can subscribe to the NOCD YouTube channel or get it wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Until next time, be better to yourself than your OCD is. Thanks, everyone.